Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. I am playing with Merry Little stamp set today. I had it in my head that I wanted to hang my little stockings, but they're quite big, so I needed to, which is great for colouring and great, but for what I wanted, it was not quite going to work. So what I did was we're going to draw a fireplace. Draw my own fireplace. It's quite close because the nutcrackers in the set, the little soldiers in the set, are quite big. They're so cute. They're so cute. But I'm just sort of laying out my mantle, my fireplace. Just sort of, I googled images off. Google. I googled some images and just went looking at what a fireplace might be, because there's not many houses here in Australia that have as many fireplaces. Not around me. I'm not saying they're not here, but they're not around here. Not around me. The fireplaces I always grew up with were what are they called? You know, the freestanding. I can't think of what they're called. It will come to me. But there's a word for it. I got Carnarvon, but that's a place in WA. Anyway, metal freestanding fireplaces. I don't see. My sister-in-law used to have a normal fireplace, but yeah, you don't see them as much. Not as much. Not around me. Other people probably do. I digress. I've drawn a little sign to go in between my little soldiers, because that's where my sentiment is going to be. And I'm going to break up my sentiment. I am not into cutting sentiments up, but of course you can do that. So we're going to do a little bit of mask. I can never get the puppies back in a straight line if I so want to do it in the straight. I can't do that to save myself. So I'm going to just use a little tiny piece of post-it note and just stamp that down, clean it off really, really well, line up my second half of my image, mask off the other side. Now you could put a piece of white paper underneath the lid of your MISTI there to make sure it's lined up, easier to see basically. So we've got the little soldier standing on the mantelpiece. I also didn't want, we'll come back to that. I needed a hole for my fire so you could just you could see it. I had this tiny little piece of tape and it almost worked out perfectly. I just had to alter the inside circle, as you probably saw there. I'm free just drawing in a couple of, not a couple, I'm going around the edges with a bricks because I wanted, they were all the images that I Googled were mostly a solid color. And I needed something a little bit different for that. So we're going to go a little bit old school with the circle. I'm not a drawer. Well, I draw, but I'm not a big drawer in the sense of I draw straight things and a little bit of curvy things, but on the whole, I just draw. This is going to look a little bit rustic, which is perfect for what I want. I have a multi-line pen. This is actually a 0.03. I'm going to go through in some places and bring out the 0.3, which is a little bit wider, because I did have to go over this a few times. And why I didn't change it earlier in the piece, I don't know. So this is pretty much what I draw. I draw mostly straight line things. I like to add a little bit of variation into them. I like scenes. So yeah, I don't know if I could draw fully the little soldiers, which is great because we have stamps for that, so it's perfect. This is where I'm just going in with my 0.3 and just making it a little bit more darker, just in certain areas that it just needed a little bit of help. And that's pretty much going to be my fireplace. So you can see the brickwork down the bottom is super rustic, let's just say. As I said, I don't have a degree in drawing. I never went to art school. But I like to dabble and I like to have fun with it. And I like my scenes. So what can I say? I hope that wasn't too loud. Oopsies. My faces are pretty much my standard colors with skins. So we've got E04, E11, E01 and E00. And I'm going over that 2 times. The E04 I pretty much only put down once. Sometimes, I won't say I never do anything else, but sometimes I do add it down again. But it's just giving that little bit of shadow. My reds that we're using, so you can see there where his arm is going to meet his belly. It's going to be darker. You could, I don't know too much about like reflective shadows, but I decided to put a little bit of reflective shadow on his belly because honestly it was a bigger image to do that too. I am working at the moment, I've just left it, I'm working through 2 times. I've left an extra highlight in the middle there, but when I go through and I come down to my lightest color, or my second lightest color, you can see there I'm now going over the shadow. So you can still see it's a little bit darker. It's harder to see on the video, but in real life you can see it's a little bit, it's got a reflection. So we've used 29, 27, 24 and 22. The circle on his hat, I purely just went around. I did it in 24, but you could pretty much do it in any color you see fit. I'm using the O here because he's going to be black, but even black has a little bit. I want some definition. So the base of his helmet there, not the top, I'm leaving the top of that one of the lighter colors you can see there. Then adding the darker color along, I don't know hats. So we've got the rim of the hat, the main body of the hat. I'm putting the darker, which is then going to make the rim of the hat sort of pop out that little bit more. And again, going through it 2 times just to heighten all my colors. My little soldier's going to have a black mustache. This is just using a little dots and little lines on it just to have a little bit of definition. Again, it's harder to see in the video, but in real life you can see a much more whiskers. And again, his belt is going to be black and we're going to a couple of lines. The lines on his arms at his wrist there, I used scene 9. So I didn't go full 100 in the hope to have a little bit of definition. But they're only really small, so it really doesn't matter too much, but that's what I did. His pants and around his circle, C9 around his hat too, again, straight line. Why did I pick that? Because I've changed some of my tips in my sketch markers and it has a fine tip. I actually do it later on in this for a W5, I think it was. That was the only one that I had of a sketch marker, so that's the one I picked here. So you can see in the first image I just replaced the tip because I wanted it finer, and I don't use my my chisel tip. And then you need to let it be for a little bit, and then the ink flows down, and you can use that to fill in those fine details, and it's a firmer tip. That's me. You have to figure out what you use more. I very rarely, very rarely, I would probably say I've used it about 3 times in the whole time I've been colouring. I don't know. I've been card making for about 15 years, but I haven't been colouring for that whole time. I didn't discover that until a little while later, and that is my go-to. I pretty much did other crafty things like cross stitch and applique patchwork, but I got into card making and then got into colouring, and that's my jam. That's what I like. That's what I have fun with. The mantle there, I've just done shading. So I've done a little, it's really hard to see because it's very light, but that's what I wanted. Just underneath him and at the back of the mantelpiece. Let's get onto these bricks. You can see I'm just drawing these freehand because my bricks are going to be rusty. I'm using the W7. So it's W7, W5, W3, W1, I think. The 7 I'm using very sparingly and just doing sort of, shall we say, L shapes on the left going underneath and on the right and going over the top. Then filling it in with little swipes of the other colours. It is still going to have, I'm looking at the card, sort of trying to figure out how I'm going to describe this. It sort of has a look of diagonal. Can you see it there? A little bit of look of diagonal through it. And you could take your darker colours over more and not have that, but that's what I like. So that's what I did. My fireplace is not lit because here in Australia it's summer. So I'm just going to use the darker colours just to fill in some depth. Again, using some of the darker colours. I think I went the W5. I haven't put the lid down there for you. And then soften that out with the W3 just to push back my wall behind the actual fireplace. I'm going to trim this down. I didn't do the very bottom because I knew that I was going to probably have to trim this down. I trim it down to, let me have a think for a sec. Basically trimmed it down to, I think it was about 13.4. I had to look at my cheap sheets, by 9 centimeters. The backing, I think it wasn't quite those sort of figures, but like 13.5 by about 9 or something like that. I am just going back in with my 0.3 and doing a frame around my picture. I thought he needed a little bit of a frame. So have a try of the brickwork. Tag us in social media. Tag me in social media and let me have a look. My name on Instagram is just Natalie Perry Walsh. I would love to see if you haven't, give it a try. I like this W color brickwork. But of course, there's lots of different colors that you could try. Here I'm doing, my fireplace is going to be the same sort of color, except we're going for like just a W3. I think it's a W3 down to a W1. I haven't written it down, but it's all around the same colors. The center of my sign is going to be my C's. It's just C3 and C1. And I just wanted to define my background, like the wall behind the fireplace and the fireplace. So the background, the wall is going to be a little bit different color again. The wood, I'm using 3 colors for a frame, E29, E25, and we're going to go down to, just having a look at my things, 23. I knew if I waited long enough, I either had a look at my sheets or had a look at waited for the screen, it will pop up. So 29, 25 and 23 for my wood, just to have a little something. And I've taken the darker colors out a little bit just for a little bit of interest. I got interrupted. What was I saying? Let me know. Background, we'll just go there. I think that was what I was talking about. I'm using C5 closest to my fireplace to push it back a little bit. I'm using less on this side than I did on the other side. And then because I thought, I don't know, I'm swapping around. That's something I need to work on, because everything else is center highlight. I need to put the same amount of highlight on my back, my left side, as I do on the right side. I'm not perfect. I like to be transparent. I like to tell you where I've gone wrong and where I feel that I'm totally loving this, totally loving this. I've trimmed down my red panel. It's just some red cardstock that I had in my stash. It's a nice deep red color. I've trimmed that down. I've raised the center panel feature image, so to speak, with a bit of foam, glued the base on it. I think apart from my stickles, so I've got a bit of gold stickles and I'm just using a needle tool to spread that around into my star, so otherwise it gets too big. No, I don't have my hand in it, even though it looks like I do, but I didn't. I thought about putting on the buckle, but that baby is just too thin. I'm putting a bit of sparkle on the back, like clear tinsel, so to speak, because I thought that was fun. Anyway, that's my card. I hope you are well. I hope you are safe, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.